So I got some small hive beetles right here that I'm crushing. You should always take the opportunity to do that. Got some bees hanging out on the front of this top cover. Have a feeling these guys need some more room. Luckily I've got a box for that. This hive is a split off of that one, which was being extra spicy. So I had to knock them down a little bit by 2 boxes. I only used mediums for my brood chamber and honey supers. So I knocked them down by 2 boxes. And that seemed to calm them down quite a bit. But I'm gonna come in here and just check to make sure that they've got a queen, because it was a walkaway split. And so I don't know if I left the queen in that box or this one. But we're about to find out. If I see eggs in this one, then I'll know this one's got a queen. And I don't know if I'm brave enough to check that one again. That one was quite spicy. But we'll see. Oh yeah, these guys are loaded. I don't know if you can see that, but all on the top cover. We're gonna smoke them down off. They might be getting ready to swarm. They're so tight in there. You'll see if these guys are any nicer than what I was working with. A little frame of food. Put that frame down there. That way it gives me a little more room to work with. This one's light. But I think I see young larvae and eggs. Got this little handy dandy thing that I got off of Walmart Vision Center. Well, a little easier to operate than two-handed. Little light comes on. Definitely young eggs and larvae. So we know this one's got a queen. So the question is, did I leave that one queenless? I'm going to go ahead and cover my thing back up since I've confirmed. You don't need to look for the queen. You just need to look for evidence of the queen. Unless she's a mean queen like that one was, but I think that was mainly because we were in a drought and that hive was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7 boxes high. It was about as high as that one, which that's my next target to knock down a little bit. I got about 30 pounds of honey and a split off of it. Let's give them a little smoke. Smoke shouldn't be too hot. I put grass up in here help cool it off. All right, so I've got cap brood. I don't know if you can see that. All along the center is larva that's about to be capped. And all throughout that frame is got some eggs over here. And as these cells hatch out, the queen will lay eggs in them. All right, so we have confirmed that they've got food. We have confirmed that she's got a queen. So I'm going to close this bad baby up and I'm going to give it a little bit more space. Might need to, well, if I was going to do one more thing, I'd check for swarm cells, but if this is a brand new queen, I doubt they'd swarm this quick. Let me go get an extra box. Now you notice this is a deep. I try and stay away from using deeps because of my back. But I've only got 2 free honey supers and I don't want to miss out on any of the honey flow, but I want to give these guys some space. So this is going to become their new brood box. I'll put it on top and I'll eventually end up rearranging them. So, got to get these guys where I don't crush them. Then I put it on at an angle like this. And then just slide it. And if there's any in the way, it'll just kind of sweep them. They're already moving up into this box. This is going to give them a lot more room. So first thing to do, press all the frames together and then equal out that space in between. And we should be good to go on this one. Close her up. Not sure what these guys are doing. Other than hanging out because there wasn't enough room. You got to be careful. Sometimes your queen will be on this inner cover. You don't want to smash her. All right. Now these guys should have room. They've got food, queen, and eggs. And we are good to go. Make sure this top cover, if this top cover were to have a notch in it, I normally block that because they only need that front entrance. A notch is just one more entryway for small hive beetle, wasps, robbers. All right. That one's done. Now on this one here, you'll see I've got two honey supers above a queen excluder. I'm going to see how that's going. I might have to pull that real quick. Alright, so whenever I open up a hive, first thing I do is I look down and I see how many frames are covered with bees. And this top honey super is only about, I'd say, 1, 2, 3, 4 covered. But they're working it. But they're not covering the frames, which is a little worrisome for small hive beetle areas. Because if there isn't a lot of bees to protect your honey, the small hive beetles will get them. Nice frame of cat brood. Unfortunately, the other side is uncapped. So I can't pull that one yet, but it's getting there. This is a brand new frame that I put in to try and get them to draw out some new honey. Every year I try and swap out a few new frames for old frames. Just to gain honeycomb, because honeycomb is gold. And toxins build up in the wax. And you don't want that. So that's uncapped. Well, one side's capped, the other side's uncapped. Yeah, this whole drone comb still left from when I placed the honey super. A few of them are circling me, so I'm just going to smoke myself. A lot of times it's more beneficial to smoke yourself than it is smoke the bees. You get some alarm pheromone on your gloves or hive tool from accidentally smushing a bee. Body odor, deodorant, stuff like that can all lots of drone combs still up in here from when I capped them off to try and get making sure there's no eggs and larvae. Whenever I put this queen excluder on here, the first thing I did was I shook all the bees down into these lower 3 boxes, then put the queen excluder on, so that, because she was starting to lay drone comb up in the honey super, as you see here. Well, so I want that to hatch out and then fill it up with honey. So one easy way of doing that is to shake all the bees down into the box. Then you know the queen's down in there, and then they can start working on letting the brood hatch out and replacing it with honey. Now I got a tool here that's going to help me space my frames out a little bit better. This is if I have 7 frames in an 8 frame. This is if I have 8 frames in an 8 frame. Well, that ain't working. Oh hell, this is for a damn 10 frame hive. No wonder. I bought the wrong damn thing. Well, I'm going to edit that out. But anyway, push all the frames together. Make sure there's no space. And then equal it out again. These tools help give you a little more space between the frames so that they can draw that comb out and put more honey in it, and it's easier for you with the decapping knife. I'm going to look in this bottom box and see what I see, or this bottom honey super that's above the queen excluder. Make sure everything's going all right. So on this one, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 frames of bees above the queen excluder. Checking this just to make sure that I got the queen actually below queen excluder, because it would not be fun if, well, they're drawing that out nice. Well, they're drawing the outside out nice, not necessarily the other. All nectar, nectar. Nectar. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this end frame where they haven't worked it much. I haven't drawn that one out at all. So now I only have 7 frames in this 8 frame honey super. So now I'm going to show you what this tool is all about. Now any stuff that they've capped off, it won't help, but anything that they're still working on, they might draw it out a little further. So you get that to fit right in between them. And you're going to have to do the same thing with the other side. And that spaces That spaces the frames out to where they're a little wider, gives them a little more room to work. I'm going to do the same thing with this frame. It's only got a little bit of drawn comb, so I'm going to give them 7 frames. But first, I think I'm going to take this queen excluder, because another name for a queen excluder is a honey excluder. But it did serve my purpose to let the brood hatch out and then start filling it up with nectar, which will hopefully prevent the queen from coming up in there. Make sure I got my spacing right. Do it both sides. That one's heavy. That one feels like it's got more honey in it than another. Four, 7, okay. There we go. We'll see how that does. Whether it helps them draw out the honey frames a little farther or not. Let's look at this one. So I'm going to try and put any frames that are capped back to back, because they're not going to draw those out any further. But these uncapped frames, they'll draw out a little further. Uncapped, uncapped. That's uncapped, uncapped. Most of this is uncapped. So I took the 2 frames that were about 50% capped and put them back to back. That way these things aren't as easy as they make them look in the movies, folks. That's okay, because I'm letting y'all see what it's actually like. There we go. Now, they only got 7 frames up there. I've removed the queen excluder. So now all those drones that hatch out, they aren't gonna perish. Because drones can't get through queen excluders either. They definitely can't get through queen excluders. don't see any signs of trouble, or else I'd go down into the brood box. But I'm wanting to get that beast so that hopefully I can take some honey off them. Now I'm going to take this frame here that has a little bit of nectar and honey, and I'm going to take it away from my hives. That way it doesn't get any robbers over here. Tell you what, setting up a camera for recording bee stuff is a pain in the butt. Can't hardly see the camera. Just gonna check these guys real quick. That's not too promising. No. They're not really working this top box too much, which concerns me. I don't know if our nectar flow is just over. Or if this is just a little bit weaker hive. I'm going to pull a frame or two just to make sure they're not queenless. Get my smoker here. When you set your smoker down, make sure you set it down somewhere that is safe and non-burnable, because a lot of people catch stuff on fire this time of year, searching their hive, going through their hives, and it's real easy to get a brush fire. That's why I like using a smokeless smoker. Technically Beekeeping, if you look them up on YouTube, they have a smokeless smoker. Okay, frame of food. We're just going to set that down. Alright, more food on that frame. Alright. This is what I'm talking about. Third frame in. Third frame in, we got a bunch of hatched out brood that's being replaced by nectar. And then on the other side, we got a wall of brood. So I'm seeing there's some young larvae on the edge of the brood chamber. So the queen is laying, but it's hard to get, can't tell if those are eggs or, as you get older this stuff gets harder. So I got young larvae, so I know I had a queen not too long ago. At least 4 or 5 days ago. For some reason this hive is just not taking off the way the others are. So this is okay, here's a bunch of eggs, young larvae. So she's laying up the frame, but they're not working that honey box that I gave them. I don't know why that is. Cap brood. Got young larvae all the way around. Some more cap brood and then honey. Same way here. Cap brood. Filling in some nectar and larvae all the way around. Alright, I think I've seen eggs, I've seen food. I'm going to push all these frames back. Put this frame back in there. And be about my merry way. Normally once I see young larvae, I move on, but I did want to, since they're so weak, I was wanting to make sure that I did see some eggs. That way I know I didn't get a swarming queen. Now this box is a little bit of a pain in the butt because they're not working it. Not working that frame at all. But then if you look, that frame's drawn out and they're putting nectar in it. But if you look at this frame, I don't know if you can see that, but it's fat, which is in a way good, but not when it's preventing the other frame from being drawn out. So another empty frame that for whatever reason they're not drawing. I didn't have time to put wax on these, and that might be the damn reason. Sometimes they just don't want to draw them if they ain't got a lot of wax. So what I'm going to do is but the frames that existed that they had already been working on, they're making them fat. So I'm going to put those side by side, space them out. All these frames that didn't get drawn, I'm only going to put 7 in this one. Hopefully that'll allow them to when they do start working those frames, they'll draw them out a little more. I'm going to take my spacer tool. Wrong one. There it is. There's the blue one. Now those two really fat frames, they're butt to butt to each other, so I'm going to have to do something about that because there's no bee space between them. So I'm going to have to move one. So 4, 6, 7. So now there's 7 in that 8 frame super. All right, see how they do. So this one had queen, well, it had eggs, so I know it has a queen, and had food, and had space. That one I had to add some space to. The first one. Now we're going to take a break and try and look at that big behemoth. This is another thing that you got to keep an eye on. One, keeping your smoker lit, which looks like it might be getting started back up. But also, if you're around all this bushy stuff, don't light it on fire. And you get ticks. So anytime you come back from doing your bees, if you've been along a hedge line, check yourself for ticks. They carry not only Lyme disease, but Ehrlichia, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, all kinds of things that a lot of times you don't even know you got until months or years down the road, until permanent damage has already been done. Last year, I had 2 tick bites, both of them positive for Lyme disease. Luckily, there's preventative medication you can take, and as long as you catch it quick, it doesn't affect you. I'm going to have to restart the smoker, so I'll be back in just a minute. Alright, I'm back. I'm just going to check this one right here, make sure it's got room. Give it a few puffs, smoke, entrance. A few puffs in the top. That's it. Let them fan that smoke around. Go ahead and smoke myself. Smoke my hive tool, get any alarm pheromone that we might have got from Accidentally crushing one. Alright. Let's see how they're doing space-wise. Small hive beetle. That's never a good sign when you see small hive beetle. Strong hive most of the time will prevent small hive beetle from being a problem, but in Florida they can overwhelm a hive. So we got some bees on the inner cover, and then we've got, looks like a deep and 2 mediums, and there's 8 full frames. First thing I do is I look down, there's 8 frames completely covered with bees. Now I could not, your queen might be up here laying, or not laying, but your queen might be up here running around. You never know. So don't just set it on the ground. I'm going to set it over here on the top cover. That way in case she is there. And then I'm just going to look. Most of this looks like honey. So I'm going to pull a frame out of the side. Give myself a little working room. Yep, nectar. They're starting to cap. They're starting to cap that nectar. Set it off to the side. Now I'm just going to break them loose, and I'm going to go to the middle of the hive. Earlier this year, I checkerboarded some new frames and some older frames. And as usual, bees do what the bees do. They don't do what they want, what you want them to. They drew that side out, but they ain't touched that one. So I got to figure out something to do with that. So that's a problem frame. And there's some drone brood right there. This burr comb is also good to get rid of. Not because it's detrimental to the bees or anything, but when you go to close the hive back up or go to put the frame back in, it can mash bees. And sometimes one of those bees might be your queen. You don't want that. I'm going to set that frame because I got to figure out some way to get this side enough room to work. Because they have drawn and it might be a case where I just go down to 7 frames. Man, I got that one really glued down. Good Lord. Keep that smoker going just in case. Give them a little puff. These guys are pretty calm. It's the hive, this hive and the one next to it that were real, like 7-8 frames deep and real. I bet this frame, and they were real aggressive. This frame right here probably weighs 10 pounds. And it was so, they had it sealed off to the bottom box with all this burr comb. Now they're probably just going to draw this burr comb back out And I'm going to let them have the resources, the protein, and from the drone brood that were killed in the process, and the wax. They'll repurpose all that. They'll eat it, move it around. This is another fat frame of honey, so I'm going to put that one right next to that other big old fat frame of honey. Sometimes bees just don't do what you want them to. They do whatever the hell they want. Here's a newer frame, and they pulled it out and they're capping it, but you can tell it's not as thick and fat as the others. I think I'm going to put, well, let's see. Let's just wait a minute. See what else we got. You never know what you're going to get when you're dealing with these jokers. Another frame of honey. Another frame of nectar and honey. So I think I'm only going to give them I'm taking this one that they hadn't drawn out. I'll place it with the one. I think I'm only going to give them 7 frames so that they get a little more room to draw. Yeah, I hate to. What I'll do is I'll move that undrawn frame toward the center. I'll make plenty of space. And since this frame right here is already drawn out mostly, let me see if I can find a cap. Because once they cap it, they're not going to draw it out anymore. Alright, so this side of this frame is completely capped off. So they're not going to draw that out anymore. So I can place this one in there, and they're going to have to draw that vacant space out into bee space. I know it sounds a little convoluted, but you figure it out over time. You figure out how to. Bees are going to do what bees do, but there's ways of finagling them a little bit to do what you want to do too. So, give them a little puff of smoke. Then this, I'll space that frame out a little bit. Give that frame a little bit of room to be drawn. Alright. These guys might actually need another honey super. So I think I'm gonna and the reason I think they might need another honey super is 9 out of 10 frames are completely drawn and they're all covered with bees. So they're running out of space. So I'm gonna go get another honey super and put it on top of these guys. Alright. Both of these guys so I don't crush as many of them. You're always going to crush a few. There's no stopping it. But if I do it like this, I'm only touching on 4 points and then I can just slide and it'll kind of push them. You're still going to smush a few. But we don't want to smush any more than we got to. Alright, so this honey super has, I pissed them off a little bit, has 7 frames. So and I normally space them old frame, new frame, old frame, but because I want them to draw these frames out equally, I'm going to put all these existing slung out frames, drawn out comb, together and put all the new ones over here. I scrubbed a little wax on these, so now I got 7 frames. These 4 are older and they've already got drawn comb. These 3 are newer. Hopefully they'll draw these out each a little fatter. And then these new ones, they'll work on them. But who knows? Bees do what the hell bees want. Right. So now they're spaced out a little bit. So this does 2 things. It gives them a little more room. Well, it does a couple things. Gives them a little more room. Gives them some drawn comb that they can immediately start using. Gives them something to work on. The younger bees that are producing wax can start working on these. And like I said, I would only add this because I've got all these boxes are slap full of bees. All the frames are covered in bees. If I took the frames out and looked down and saw that they weren't all covered in bees, I probably wouldn't do this. So, when you put your inner cover on, what you can do is you can kind of slide it. That prevents you from killing too many putting the inner cover on because they're around the edge. do want to crack this open and just look at the brood chamber. Now let me not play games with it. Ooh, that's heavy. My back's gonna pay for it. All that burr comb. Now I could harvest that and melt it down, but I'm gonna leave them. They'll eat that. They'll eat the dead drones as protein. It's almost like their own self-made protein patty. I just want to look down in here and make sure that I've got, I see they got food. I just want to make sure they got a laying queen. This time of year you never know. They swarm on you. Lots of bee bread and honey. Now, so I see immediately already got some brood on the second, but they're back filling it with honey, which worries me a little bit. And again, as the brood's hatching out, they're filling the brood area, which is that area, they're filling it with honey. So they might be getting honey bound, which adding that super will help with that, because they'll be able to move that honey out of the brood chamber area and up into the honey super, and give room for the queen to lay. I'm hatching out brood, but again, the brood chamber, wherever the brood chamber's at, it's getting filled. It's getting filled with honey. And that right there, folks, was a queen cell that I killed on accident. And another queen cell, so hopefully I'm not going to go any further, because they might be trying to raise them a new queen. Well, actually those are swarm cells, so yep, so there's a capped queen cell right there. Right there. So that means there's a capped queen cell. That means the old queen has probably already left. So I want to be real careful with this one, that I don't damage that queen cell. Slide it back into place. So I already saw 3 swarm cells, so odds are these guys are swarming. Now, I can let them swarm, or I can take one of those swarm cells and put it in a box and put it over there, which I might do. So I know this one's got a queen cell in it. I'm going to put that back. So I'm going to go get a bottom board and see if I can't split this joker and save that swarm. Well, I don't know. Cells cats, so they probably already swarmed. Sometimes you never know what to do, really. So I just need to watch this one. They've got a capped queen cell that hopefully I didn't damage. And need to make sure that they stay strong and come back and check a couple weeks, really a month, to see if they've got a queen. But in the meantime, I'll just watch them externally and make sure they don't seem too weakened. They've got a little more room to put some honey. To make room for the new queen. Get that smoker going. Alright, so you notice I got these ones hive strapped down. That's because they're so tall. They real top heavy with honey and could easily get blown over if we had a storm in Florida. Not to mention if I stumble and fall, which I've been known to do, the unit will go as a whole. Alright, now these guys were mean last time. Let's see. Oh, there's Pat. There's white comb all the way up to the inner cover here. Means they're running out of room. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but see this fresh wax right here? I'm going to set it over here on the inner cover for now. So this super looks